Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. A mate, no range on the track when we unite and spit. This isn't A game, better bring your A game.
The biggest story, and one of the biggest stories in the history of wrestling, we already know that the WWE and the UFC were merging. Well, it became official earlier this week that WWE and the UFC have merged. They are now under one company called TKO, with Ari Emanuel as kind of the head honcho of that company. There's a new command structure. Vince McMahon is no longer the top dog. He has a boss to answer to. Not that he'll ever answer to him, but he does have a boss to answer to. I think Ari will very likely treat Vince much like he treats Dana White. Mm-hmm. And Dana White does damn near whatever he wants, good and bad. Like, he kind of gets away with a lot. So I don't really see like Vince asking Ari for permission. But with a big merger like this, and this happens with every major company ever. It happened to my wife's company. Like they kind of did like a hostile takeover of the company that she worked for. And then because they had so many duplicate employees now, whenever they merged, they just started cutting a large portion of the workforce, and a lot of people had no job, man. And that kind of happened today. I think we saw over 100 office and personnel cuts. No talent, but office personnel.
My wife has been through two mergers and acquisitions, we'll call them, mergers and executions, if you will. Like, yeah. She survived both of them. So she actually has been technically working for the same company for almost 20 years now, but it's gone under like 4 or 5 different major regime changes. So this happens. I mean, like, realistically, those people were redundant because Endeavor, right? Because Endeavor, they spun, like, this TKO spun off of Endeavor, right?
Yeah.
So all these people that Endeavor had employed previously outranked the people that were in WWE, and like, they're gone now. And I don't know, it sucks, but corporate America, man, it's what it is.
Yeah, and I was like preparing for it, and I know people thought I was being pretty insensitive, but
well,
I could see on I could see on Twitter, like, I knew it was coming, where like Sean Ross Sapp or PW Insider would report that some person that you've never heard of in a department you never knew existed got released, and then there's people on Twitter crying outrage. Saying, oh, what, maybe AEW should hire this person. They're great at their job. I'm like, brother, you don't even know what they did.
Right.
Like, you don't even know what the name, like, what that section even does over there.
No, and like, every time someone gets released from WWE, there's a bunch of people going, oh, Tony needs to hire this person. And it's like, does he really? I mean, like, if WWE didn't feel like they were necessary anymore, does the other company have to bring them in? And just because you work for the one wrestling company doesn't necessarily mean you got to work for the other. Like, there are other people who have had other jobs that can work in wrestling, right? Wrestling isn't that much of a new thing. Like, it's just, there's a lot of weird takes going around. Like, it's, like I said, sucks to lose your job. And in our Voices of Wrestling Slack group, Mike Spears, he of the Open the Voice Gate podcast, best podcast for Dragon Gate, if you like Dragon Gate stuff.
Is that where they talk about a lot of MLW stars like Shin Skywalker?
I hate your guts with the white hot fire of 1,000 suns. Go to the furthest depths of hell. I know there's a lot of volcanoes by you, so jump in one. Yeah. As I was saying, Mike made a good point. The only people worth bringing, and I like this actually, the only people who might be worth bringing in are their PR people, because let's be real, WWE PR freaking rules. Tremendous. They do an amazing job. They are so good. And Vince has had decades of experience at training people to eat out of his hands, and the mainstream fought him for decades. But I mean, he waited them all out to the point now where, the lapdogs can't wait to just eat off Vince's tit. Oh, what do we got? Oh, yeah, Vince McMahon. Blah, 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 blah. But that's from the PR department. They're awesome. And these are the only people I could say, hey, maybe there's something to there. So credit to Iron Mike Spears. This is a good suggestion.
Yeah, no, I do think that's a great suggestion. And if they had some people in talent relations, maybe they could bring those folks over, because there's clearly still a problem over there in AEW. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the one guy that had the biggest issue with that department is now gone. But, there were some rumblings before all this, the drama that had happened earlier this year and late last year. There was like some rumblings and some communication issues. So, but a lot of the office people that got let go from the WWE, those aren't wrestling people. Like, those are like, marketing and human resources. Like, those are just normal folks that just like applied for the job through LinkedIn and got hired based off of their resume. They're basically civilians, and they're not like wrestling people.
And here's the thing too, is like, I don't think any of these people are surprised that it was coming. Right? These are smart people. They could see the writing on the wall. We've been talking about this for months. We all
Yeah.
saw what Endeavor did when they bought UFC. What was that, about 6 years ago? 6, 7 years ago?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we saw the culling that happened over there. And by the way, it's probably not done. Like I know Nick Hausman reported that there's going to be some talent releases. And I think WWE decided, or excuse me, TKO decided, it's funny. It was Titan forever. And then it was
Yeah.
WWE or it was WWFE. And then it was WWE. Now, whatever. TKO decided to maybe wait on some of these talent releases. They're coming because this is a company that, one, it's a public company, so they have to
Yeah.
show they have to show they have to show growth, and the easiest way to show growth is to just fire a bunch of people,
Yeah.
right? Then you say you're saving money. So they're gonna do that. There's way too many. Like we joke about Tony Khan hoarding talent. Do you know how many people are in that performance center? They can't fill all. There's too many people. They don't all have lockers there.
Yeah.
They don't all have lockers. Like you have to wait till you can get a locker. Do you really need that many people hanging out in the performance center, flipping tires and blowing their ACLs, overtraining?
Yeah. Yeah. Getting good medical care, I'm sure.
Oh, great medical care.
Yeah.
What do you think the rate is of injury in the PC? Because there always seems to be like and just like not owies, but like massive injuries. Like
If
torn
you're like
Achilles, blown ACLs, like major, major injuries.
the best job security in the world is being like a WWE team physician and surgeon. You know what I mean? Or just like it is like if you're an NFL team doctor,
A
like
trainer.
you're set because those brothers are always hurt. You're set for life if you got one of those gigs, man.
For sure. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I fully expect there to be a culling. And if it's we were discussing with one of our buddies. You and I both thought that some of the higher priced mid card talent
Mhm.
could see it because this is what happened in UFC, right? This is what they've done for a while now. Is when
Yeah.
there's higher priced older guys, they become redundancy. And again, the entire concept behind the performance center is that we're training the next generation. And the next
Mhm.
generation doesn't get their shot if there's a bunch of 40-year-olds on the roster.
Well, it's true of football too, and it's
Mhm.
true of the UFC. Like as fighters get older and they get more and more TV time, they get more exposure, then they get more expensive, right?
Mhm.
And as their fighting ability starts to decline, their actual rate will go up because they're more popular and they're selling more tickets and more merch. So at that point, that's when the UFC would either cut them, or when their fight contract came up, they would just stop negotiating with them, and then all of a sudden Bellator and PFL would take them on. And there's a laundry list of fighters that had happened to. Fabricio Verdum, the former heavyweight champion, defeated Fedor, right, one of the greats ever.
Mhm.
Rory McDonald left straight from the UFC on a winning streak. He went over to Bellator, and then he ended up in PFL. Now I think he's retired. Benson Henderson, former lightweight champ, he was lightweight champ in UFC and the WEC lightweight champ. A really decent sized star there. Like I've seen him headline pretty decent sized events, right? But he's not that upper echelon Connor, John Jones, those type of guys. But he was like a pretty mid-level star making decent coin, and UFC's like, you know what, we can trade you in for a guy off of Cage Fury fighting championships. It's on a win streak. Get
Mhm.
them in there. If the guy's got a little bit of exposure and some good fighting ability, we can just push that guy. So they've done that time and time again, and that's where I could see where WWE will do some talent cuts. Some of them will be like through attrition, but there's other ones that are just like fat contracts of guys that are just not doing anything. Like if I were one of you, like if you're a 40-something tag team that was already cut before and went to Impact for a couple years and then went back on another fat contract, I would keep my cell phone off for a while. I would just show up and try to hide as much as you can, because I think you might be on the chopping block.
JTG had a great tweet yesterday. He said, "All right, here's the challenge. Don't answer your phone.
Yeah.
Just they
Yeah.
can't fire if you don't answer your phone." Like,
And then just,
that's pretty good.
George Costanza just show up like you still
Just
work there.
just show up. Yeah, oh, hey, I didn't know anything was wrong. I mean, that's just the kind of thing, though. I mean, the difference with the UFC and WWE or pro wrestling in general is that it's hard to make stars, but UFC has done it, right? Time and
Mhm.
time again. They keep making stars. They keep finding people. Pro wrestling might be a little bit harder. But the thing is, too, is like in pro wrestling, like usually sometimes people don't start getting good till they're in their early to mid 30s.
Mhm.
right? But by the time they're 40, there might be another guy in his early to mid 30s ready to go. And if you're in the mid card, what kind of value are you really bringing to them at the moment? Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't want to like fantasy book people getting fired, but I was just we were having a conversation about AJ Styles, right?
Mm-hmm.
A legend, an all-time great,
Yep.
legendary TNA performer, and I would say he's a WWE legend. He's had a hell of a run there. He's been there since I think 2014.
16.
2000 was it 16?
16,
So
14, he leaves
yep.
Impact. 15, he goes to New Japan.
Okay. And then 16, he's at the Royal Rumble, him
Mhm.
and Shinsuke. Okay. Now he's, in his mid 40s, and I'm sure he's commanding a high dollar,
Mhm.
but he's never really the guy there. He's just a really good worker that people genuinely like. People come out. I think that guys like that might be in a little bit of trouble with this merger because I don't really think they're bringing in a ton of dollars, but they're getting paid a lot. You know what I mean? And so you can replace a guy like that with somebody from the PC, elevate them, and just start to push them. Now you can say, "Oh, how can you replace an AJ Styles? He's one of the all-time greats." You're thinking of it like a wrestling fan.
Mhm.
You're not thinking of it like a bean counter, right? They
Mhm.
just see like what the contracts are versus what the revenue that they're bringing in, and and I don't know that it matches up. I'm going to go ahead and assume probably not with guys like that. I'm not saying him specifically, but guys of that ilk.
Well, there's a concept that got popular in baseball. It's that wins above replacement, right?
Yeah.
That war. So like you got a replacement level wrestler. How good are you as opposed to that replacement level wrestler? I'd say AJ is reasonably high on that, but at the same time, you're eating up a lot of money.
Yeah.
You can easily, like, I'm not saying you can easily replace AJ, but think about AJ is if AJ were to get cut, he would get money from Tony Khan tomorrow.
Oh, immediately. Yeah.
So I mean, like that's like the one guy I'd be like, yes, that guy would find a home in AEW tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of other guys, maybe not, like Dolph Ziggler. Like, what's he done
Nope.
the last like 3-4 years over there? Right. I know they did a thing with Braun, but he's been out of that, like in NXT, but he's out of that. And like he's my age. We're literally the same age. Our teams wrestled against each other in college. Fucking Kent State. And I would think that maybe his time has come. I know they like the Miz, but what are you getting with the Miz that you can't get with Grayson Waller? And that's Rich from the flagship show. He draws that comparison. He calls him replacement level Miz.
Yeah.
But what's the difference? Like with Waller, you've got a younger, better version of the Miz who just hasn't had those million opportunities that Mizanin has.
Yeah. Well, I mean, The Miz is a celebrity wrestler, right? And Grayson Waller is them trying to create a celebrity wrestler. Miz was a celebrity before he came into wrestling, and he's just been in there a long time, and he just fits well into that system. But the Miz's draw is that he's the Miz. Like he goes on TV, he can get you on TV. I think you can easily replace him with Grayson Waller. He's just not famous yet, right? He talks about being a social media star. He doesn't have any followers yet. But you give him the Miz's spot, he might get there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, look at LA Knight. A year ago, he was still Max Dupree, right? And they were teasing the LA Knight thing. And this is a veteran work guy. We're the Impact guys. He's Eli Drake. He'll be Eli Drake to us forever.
Wait a minute. Hold on, JD. Are you sitting here and telling me that he was not created in NXT? That he wasn't just discovered at NXT, built up through the NXT system, and finally got his shot?
Yeah. Oh, I made a joke. Yeah. I didn't even mean to do that. Yeah, no, I'm telling you that exactly. No, that's the thing though, is like, so they gave that guy a shot and look what he did. Like he's over.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I never thought he's a good wrestler, but in WWE, you don't have to be. More on that later.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll come back to that thought. So that's the thing is like, how are you going to get the replacement level Miz to become the new Miz if you don't give him the chance to become the new Miz? So I think if you got Grayson Waller under contract, what's the difference other than, a decimal point maybe between the Miz and Grayson Waller? Like, what is the Miz really doing for you that Grayson Waller can't do?
Yeah, I mean, can you put the Grayson Waller in a reality show? I think so. Yeah. Will it do the same numbers? Probably not yet, but maybe if you give it time. But you're not going to have to pay Grayson Waller nearly as much as you pay the Miz.
Right. But this thing, Mizanin was a reality star in the mid-aughts. Nobody gave a shit about him when his wrestling career was starting. Right?
No.
Everything he's earned since then is from WWE. I hate giving them credit for it, but it's true. Real world fame fades fast. Like real fast. So I mean, like that stuff was gone long ago. But excuse me, he knew how to do that. He knew how to do that. So if you give Grayson Waller that opportunity, why? He's younger. He's a better athlete, a better worker. Not by much, but he's a better worker. What's the difference between the guys? Like, and if I'm working for Endeavor, these are the questions I'm asking. Or excuse me, TKO. Yeah. These are the questions I'm asking, and I think you have to seriously consider them right now. Same with like your Bronson Reeds, like that Triple H Infinity Gauntlet bullshit. Like that, they're going to start turning into dust. That's going to be more apropos than people think.
Yeah, Thor is about to be defeated, I think. Not Thor. What the hell? What the hell's his name?
Thanos.
I called him
Jesus
Thor.
Christ,
dude.
Competition starting to get thick. It's the click, so I hope you brought your A game. 8 made no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This isn't